Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about the simple example on this particular one-dimension example. Any questions regarding this? Anyone having any questions regarding this particular one dimension? Okay. So today we'll discuss about the one of the another important called multi-dimension array. It's like a 2D dimensions array. So what is the best way of creating this particular 2D dimensions array? We are going to discuss here. So now observe carefully how I'm going to write the simple example on this particular 2D arrays here. So here only I'm going to create a new class here. So basically the plus plus here, it's going to increment the value by 1 basically. So that is nothing but yesterday the wherever we are using the index variable name as a TOS, that basically we are trying to increment the value every time by 1 here. So I will explain one more time. Now observe carefully. So this is an example we discussed in the last session, and here initially the TOS value I'm initializing as a 0 here. Okay, the TOS value I'm initializing as 0. Now what happens internally whenever we are, if how many times this method is going to call, how many times this push method is going to call, based on that we want to increment the value dynamically. Getting the point? So instead of incrementing the by value statically is nothing but 0. So again you need to write multiple times code here. Getting the point? So how we define the last example here in the array related. So you can see if I want to write the static related, you need to write like this. So month underscore 031. So month underscore days 11 78. So this is the 5 63 8 is 12. So here the 0 11 5 8. These are all we'll call it as a indexes here. And here this is we made statically. Now observe carefully. If we want to write this statically, how many lines of code we are writing here? So these many lines of code we are writing. Like to insert the 1, 2, 3, 4 values. So we repeated 4 times here. We repeated 4 times basically. So if I want to not interested to repeat multiple times here. So now what is the best way here? You can write like this here, and you can increment the value how many times this push method is going to call. So for example, if the push method is going to call 20 times, this TOS value is going to increment 20 times. So basically, if it is not incremented 20 times, how we can write? How we can write basically? So you need to write to here something like 0. So one more time, you need to write as a 1. Okay. So you need to write like this, and this is we can make as a 1. And if you are trying to write one more time, you can make it as a 2. So now observe carefully. If the TOS value we are not incrementing dynamically, you need to write like this. So around 20 times we need to write the values here. So this is not the good behavior to implement the program. But if you write like this, every time this push method is going to call 20 times, this code is going to execute 20 times here. So now you can think here, for each time 20 records are going to inserted here. Each time 20 records are going to insert it. So this is not the good way of writing this particular dynamic related applications here. Okay. So now if you see carefully, so how we write here. This main method is going to call only one time, but whenever it is called one time, how many times these values are inserting? 4 values we are inserting into this particular array, and later we are doing some other operations here. Okay, instead of writing the 4 times, what we did here, only one time we defined here. Getting the point? Only one time we are defining it, and internally we are incrementing the value. So every time this item should be dynamic value. Getting the point? Every time this item should be the dynamic value. So this is the way of writing dynamic code, and this is the way of writing static code here. So that's the reason I explained the 2 example in the last session, how we can write the dynamic related example and how we can write the static example here. Okay. So this is we need to understand very carefully here. Okay. So is it clear the toss variable, or still you are having any questions on this? Okay, so now we'll move on to the multi-dimensions example. Is nothing but 2D array. So how I'm trying to create this particular 2D array, observe carefully. So this is the data type I'm providing as an int here. So you can take any data type. So first I'm giving the one example. So try to practice with the different data types here. Okay. So this is a way of practicing the example. So basically what I want to provide the one more information. Whenever you are attending the classes, you can easily understand what are all these particular concepts. So after a few days, if you try to write the single line of code, you cannot write. So what the syntax is, we'll forget everything here. So that's the reason you need to practice the day-to-day session, what we are discussing basically. Okay. So this is important. I want to provide the information. Now observe carefully the 2D, how I'm trying to create. So earlier, like in the last session, we come up with only one bracket here. But today, we'll discuss about the two brackets here. Today we'll discuss about the two brackets here. Now you can see, so the two brackets I'm trying to create like this. So this is the way of object creation here. And here, whenever we are trying to work with the arrays concepts here, we should provide the size here. So without the size, we cannot access we cannot initialize any values here. Now I'm giving as a size as a 3, and I'm going to provide size as a 4 here. Okay, so 3 comma 4. This is the two dimensions array I'm trying to create. Okay, this is very important. We need to understand how this particular 2D is creating internally. So first what I will do, I'm going to create the diagram here. Okay, the first one we can call it as a rows. Second one we can, okay, so first one is the 3 columns, and second one is rows. We can discuss. Observe carefully. So 0, 1 and 2. So now if you observe carefully, so this is the first column, second column, and third column, and fourth column. Okay, so this is, we need to create one more box basically. Now observe carefully what I'm doing here. Okay, so this is nothing but 0, 1, 2. This is the whatever the size we gain as a 3, and this is will work as a for size 4 here, because indexes will start from the 0. So 0 to 3, 0 to 3 is nothing but 4, 0 to is nothing but 3. Getting the thing. So this is the way the multi-dimension is going to look like here. Okay, so it is a combination of rows and columns. So this is important. We need to understand how this particular rows and columns are going to implement here. Now the values we need to initialize here. So now we understand here, whenever the line number 6 is created internally, this is the diagram is going to create. But what we need here, we need to initialize the data. Like we need to insert the data into this particular table. How we can initialize here? Here, how many sizes we are having? Two sizes. So how many for loop we need? Two for loops here. Basically, we need to use a two for loops here. So now observe carefully how I'm trying to use. The first one I'm making as a 3, because we are having, so we are having 3 rows, 4 columns basically. Okay, this is important. We need to understand. Now I'm creating the first loop here, and the second one I'm creating. This is, we'll call it as a nested loop here. So this is very important example we are discussing here for this particular nested loops here. Okay, so now we created the two loops here. So first one for the row, second one for the column. Okay, this is important here. So now observe. So for one loop is going to repeat this. Okay, one loop is going to repeat this particular rows, and another loop is going to repeat like this, the particular columns here. Okay, this is important. Now finally what I will do, I am going to insert the data. So earlier, if you observe carefully how we initialize here, this is the reference variable. Using the reference variable, we provided the index number and value. Getting the point? So don't confuse here. This is the name of the particular reference variable, and internally we are providing the index number. This is very important. This index number is going to play important role here. Okay, this is the one dimension. But whenever we are discussing the two dimensions, so how we can define here? Okay, and finally the right side value we are going to store here. So same example. Now observe carefully. Here I'm going to use, so this is the reference variable we are having, and we are having two dimensions basically. This is the reference variable, and here we need to specify the two dimension. Why we need to specify the two dimension? Because it is a 2D dimensions example. Now, first one I'm making as a I, second one I'm making as a j. So here also you need to observe carefully. Here I'm not come up with the values here. Here I'm declaring the variables here, because the variable already is declared here, and the I contain what is the value it going to store in the I index location, and the same way the j, if you define here, the j will be store the values here. So finally, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to store the k value. So right now we did not initialize about this particular k. Here I'm going to initialize the k is equals to 0. Otherwise, okay, I will use the k value. Later we can modify the k values here. Okay. So this is important, we need to understand. So here, if you observe, instead of providing the static value, so in the last example, observe carefully. Here I'm giving 0, 11, 5, 8. But now current example, what I'm doing is, I'm giving I comma I and j here. Here I'm giving I and j. So what we need to understand basically here, this I and j is going to play for each iteration, values are going to change here. For each iteration, the values will be changed. So for example, initially I value 0 and j value 0. So two example we are discussing here. Now observe carefully. Now what I will do, I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and we'll see how these values are going to store. Now I'm running the same example in the debug board. This is important here. So try to understand same example. So I value, and now you can see what is I value right now, 0, and the condition here. So this condition is very important here, I less than 3. What is the I value right now we are having? What is I value? So 0. So 0 less than 3. Condition is so important here, 0 less than 3. Condition will satisfy or not? Condition will satisfy, because this opening side, if we are having bigger value. Okay, condition is satisfied. Now it's coming to the below section. It is nothing but nested section. Getting the point? So once we enter into this particular nested section, again, what we are doing here, we are checking the j value. So j also 0. Initially j also 0, 0 less than 4. 0 less than 4. The first condition is satisfied. Both nested loops like of I loop and of j loop, both are conditions are satisfied. Now you can see, now observe carefully what I am doing. This is the 2D. What is the I value right now? What is the I value right now? 0. Here you can see here. So this is, you need to understand this diagram. This is important here. I value 0 and j value 0. I 0, j 0. K value how much? K value also 0. Because here the line number 7, we are initializing the k value. The line number 7, we are initializing this particular k value. Okay. Now what we need to understand here, once this particular k value is 0, what is the value we are storing? So in the last session we already discussed, whatever the right side value we are having, we are trying to store into this particular left side. What is the right side value we are having? 0. K value right now 0. And later, so what I am doing here, 2D I and j. I value how much? 0. J value 0. So compare here. This is going to point as a I, and this section is going to point as a j. Okay. This is going to point as a I and j. Now observe carefully what you need to understand. I value 0, j value 0. So you can see here, that's why I provided the indexes numbers as well. The k value how much? Right now k value 0. Okay. I am initializing k value 0, and later the k value is going to increase it by 1. The k value increased by 1. So in the which line number it going to increase? The line number 11. You can observe carefully the line number 11, what we are doing is, we are increasing the k value. So k plus plus. So observe carefully how the increment operators are important here, because from the few example we are discussing the increment operators and the decrement operators here. Okay. Now observe k value, it is increased. So once a k value increase, now, so here the j value is also increased. So j value also now 1. Now you can compare here, 1 less than 4. 1 less than 4 is going to satisfy or not? It's going to satisfy. So once it is satisfied, now again we are coming to this. Again we are coming to this particular 2D, I and j. I value how much right now? This diagram you need to check here. I value right now 0. What about this particular j value? 1. So here you can see this is we are providing as a I. Okay. So this is we are providing as a j. So I value 0 still. J value 1. So which block is pointing it? This block. Getting the point? This block is pointing. Now, what is the k value? K value how much here we are having? 1. K value we are having. So here we are discussing the right side value is going to store into the left side. Now, the k value is modified. K value now, here I am going to provide the 1 value. Here I am going to provide the 1 value. Okay. So later, again it is incrementing. Again, k value it is incrementing. So now the k value become 2. Okay. And j value become 2. So whenever the k and j value become 2, so what we need to check here? We need to check the condition 2 less than 4. 2 less than 4. The condition is again it will satisfy. So once it is satisfied, now you can see it is coming into line number 10. It is coming into line number 10. Still, what you need to observe carefully, I value still it is 0. The I value it is not yet updated. Only j value is updated. Only j value is updating here. Now, what is the j value right now? 2. And what about this particular k value? 2. So here, the value I'm trying to initialize like 2. Okay, the value I'm trying to initialize. So again, so it's going to the modify the value, k value as well as j value. So k value 3. Okay, j value also 3. And now we need to check the condition. 3 less than 4. Condition will satisfy. Condition is going to satisfy. So once it is satisfied here, now again it will initialize. So what is the j value right now? J value 3. I value still I value 0. So here I am going to update the k value because here we are using the k value we are trying to store into this particular 2D. Okay. So later we are incrementing the k value. Now what is the k value? Right now k value 4. K value 4 and j value also 4, and you can identify 4 less than 4. 4 less than 4 condition will not satisfied. This particular condition will fail. It will return the false. It will return the false. So now observe carefully. Whenever it is written the false, it will move on to the outer loop. Now it will come back to the line number 8 here. Okay. So see, now it is coming to the line number 8. Why it is coming? Because the j value 4. The j value we are having 4 and the condition also we are having 4. 4 less than 4. The condition will not satisfy. When it will satisfy? 4 less than or equals to 4. Getting the point? 4 less than or equals to 4. At the time of this condition, it will satisfy. Okay. So again, now the I value modified here. So right now, what is the I value? I value now become 1. Getting the point? This is important here. Now I value is modified here. So now 1 less than 3. 1 less than 3 condition will satisfy. Whenever the condition will satisfy, what happening internally? It will come to the nested loop. So here the j value is going to start from 0. J value again is going to start from 0. Why it will start from 0? Because this is the second time the loop is calling. Whatever the nested loop we are calling here, the line number 9, it is calling second time. Whenever the loop is calling multiple times, the value is going to start from 0. Because here we are doing the initialization. Getting the point? Here we are doing the initialization. So this is important, we need to understand. Okay. Now the j value 0. Whenever I'm providing this particular j value 0, so it will start from 0 onwards again. So I'm checking the 0 less than 4. 0 less than 4 condition will satisfy. Now I value 1. So it is pointing to this. Because just now the I value is increased here. So 0 is completed. Now we are inside the I value 1 and j value 0. Getting the point? I value 1, j value 0. So which value it is pointing here? this block it is pointing. Okay, this block. What is the k value we are having? The k value here we are having 4. So once it is completed, it will update it to this particular 5. It will update it to 5. So again, the j loop will repeat multiple times again here. So j value is now modified to 2, modified to 1, and again it will check 1 less than 4. 1 less than 4 condition will satisfy. Here I am going to store the 5 value. So the k value increased to 6, and the same way j value is increased to 2, and we are going to check the condition. The condition is nothing but 2 less than 4. Condition will satisfy. 6 value. So k value it is increased to 7, and j value it is increased to 3. 3 less than 4. Okay, here we are having 3 less than 4 condition will satisfy. So once this particular condition will satisfy, the 7 value is going to store, and the k value 8 and j value 4. Whenever the j value 4, here we are checking 4 less than 4 condition will false. Whenever the condition will false here, again it will go back to the outer loop. Now you can see k value 8. So it will go to the outer loop here. Now you can see it is coming to the outer loop. Now the I value 2. Now I value 2. Getting the pen. So this is a way I value is increasing. So now we are pointing to this particular section of code. Okay. So I value 2. And once I value 2, again the j value is going to start from 0. Again the j value is going to start from 0. So j value 0 and k value 8. J value 0, k value 8. So now it will update the k value 8 here. And later the k value 9 and the j value 1. Getting the point. Now it will check the condition 1 less than 4 will satisfy, and the 10 value and j value it become 2. So again 2 less than 4 condition will satisfy, and 3 less than 4. Okay. So finally this is a way we are going to update the values. We are going to update the values here. This is very important, we need to understand here. Now you can see condition is false here. Now, so outer like nested loop is completed. Now we are checking the outer loop. This outer loop is also it's going to return false. Now you can see it will come out of this particular two loops here. So now you can see all these two loops are completed now. The two loops are completed now. This is very, very important we are discussing here. The nested loop, how we initializing the data into the 2D array. Okay. So any questions? Any questions regarding this particular initialization, like inserting the value into this particular 2D array? Okay. So what you are having any question you can ask me. So basically these are all the arrays related example, very important example we are discussing here. Okay, now observe. So I'm going to clean this particular screen, and I will try to debug the code and will insert the value, how this particular values are going to insert. So the same diagram, you can imagine how the values are going to initialize here. Now the same example I am running again in the debug mode only. So I will explain how the values are initializing into this particular 2D. Now you can see how many rows we are having? 3 rows. Okay, and each row contain how many columns here? 4. You can see here 0, 1, 2, 3. Here is nothing but 4. And you can see 0, 1, 2. This is nothing but rows. Okay, so first I will see this. So here I will see first row we are trying to include the values here. Okay, so k value 0. K value 0. Let me run one more time. Now observe carefully the variable section. So whatever the variable here I'm trying to highlight here, this grid will give you the more information about the values initialization. So now you can see, so k value 0, and here you can see I value also 0. Okay, here you can see j value 0. Okay, the condition initially it will definitely it will satisfy. Okay, now you can see I value 0, I value 0 and j value is also 0. Okay. So this is we need to understand. After this, what is the k value we are having? K value 0. So all we are having zeros. Whenever we are having all zeros, you can see here, you can see this is pointing 0 and this is also pointing 0. Getting the point? This is the first row, and inside the first row we are having first column 0. Okay, how we can identify? This is this diagram. This diagram will give you the indexes information. Okay, so this is the row level we are discussing, and this is the column level we are discussing. Okay, so these two are pointing to the current 0 values. Current 0 values. Now the value is 0 initialized. Now later k value. Now you can see k value 1. So k value 1. So once k value 1, now you can see j value is also 1. J value is also 1. It is updated the j value and condition is satisfied. So right now it is updating to this particular column. Okay, I value is updated. So j value updated. K value is also updated. Now second row, second column, not the second row. So we are still inside the first row. Second column we are trying to update here. The second value is updated. Now you can see again we are trying to check the condition. Now you can see the j value updated as well as k value updated as well as the value is initialized into this particular 3 index location. Now this is important. So this section, the nested section is going to fail. So now you can see the nested section is failed. Now we are moving into the second one. So this first row is completed. Now we are now inside this section. Okay. So this section we are going to discuss here. So now observe carefully. So value is updated, 0 index location, k value modified, j value modified. Okay. So k value now 6 basically, j value 2, getting the point. So now you can see j value 3 and k value 7. The 7 value is going to modify. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the way of updating the values. Okay. And the last one, so it's coming out of the loop here. Nested loop is condition fail here. Now moving into the outer loop. So this is the third iteration. This is the third iteration. 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going to update here. So see carefully. 8, 9. Getting the point. Now you can see all the values are updated basically. Okay. All the values are updated. Now you can read this 0 to 11. 0 to 11. So this is for first row. Okay. And this is for second row. And this is for third row. Okay. These are all the 3 rows we created. And you can identify first column, so second column, and third column, and fourth column. Okay. These are all the columns we defined here. Now finally, it is coming out of the loop. Okay. Now we identify the values initialization here. Okay. Whatever the value we are initializing into this array. Now finally, what I want to write here, we need to load the data. Now, how we are going to load the data? For loading also, we are going to use the same. We are going to use the same loops here. Okay. But here, we are not going to use this particular k++. And here, so this is the way we are going to load the values. Getting the point? This is important. We need to understand here. So now observe carefully. Using this I, and j. Now what I am doing here? Now here also I and j is going to play indexes role only. Here also this I and j, they are playing indexes role. Okay. But here they are inserting the value. Here we come up with the equal right side value. But here we don't have any equal statement. So whenever we are not having the equal statement, we are trying to load the data from the particular array here. So what is an array we are using? That is called 2D array. Okay. So now if I'm going to run without debug here, now you can see. So this is the values we are initialized and we are loading all the values. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Getting the point. So these are all the values we created. Like how the values we initialized, we identified. Now this is the first row, second row, and third row we are having. And now you can understand the columns basically. These are all the column, 4 columns we are having. Okay. So this is the way we can design the particular table here. So same diagram we are able to get or not. Now if I'm going to write some bigger type here. Now 0, 1, 2, 3. So now you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So same values. So here whatever the value we are getting is the same value I'm defining like this here. Okay. This is, we'll call it as the 2D dimension example. Any questions? Okay. Is it clear? The 2D dimensions, how we initialize, like how we insert the values and how we are loading. So whenever we are trying to work with the 2D dimension or 3D dimension, based on the dimensions, the loops are increased here. Okay. For single dimension, we come up with only one loop here. For 2D, we are using the two loops here. So these are all the two loops we are using here. Okay. So see, basically, whatever you're writing here, so that you need to come up with statical values. If 2, 3, and we cannot write basically. See, basically the first one k 2, comma 3, this is we can write. So whatever you're writing is, this section we can write here, because this is the this is basically, so it is a repeated statement. So this we can provide the I value, and this we can provide as a j value. But this is different. This is inside the I value as a first, and we are trying to load the j value as a 3. So you can initialize the values. That only basically here, if you observe carefully what happening here, if you are trying to provide I, because I we already identified I value, it is 2, and j value we come up with a 3. So currently this is it is pointing this particular 2, and inside this particular 2, what we are doing is 3. So 3 is nothing but this is. So this is the value is going to update it here. Based on your whatever you are providing here, the value is going to initialize as a 10. So in your case here, the 10 will be override with the 23 and 1 comma 3. So this is the one we are using, and this particular 6 is going to override with the 20. Okay, this is the first iteration and this is the second iteration. But if you want to go for the static condition directly, you can define the values like this, and the values are going to modify here. Okay, basically why I'm using the I and j. So instead of writing the multiple lines of code, I'm trying to come up with this particular I and j. So if I'm not writing this, what happens internally? So we don't need to use the loops here. Directly we can write the values like this. So if you see, if I'm not using this loop concept here, if I'm not using this particular loop concept here, basically how can I write here? 2D. The first one we need to define as a 0, and the second one we need to define as a 0. The k value that we already identified here. Okay, now you can see. So first one, the I value 0, and j value will modify with the 1, and j value will modify 2, j value will modify 3. Okay, and later here what happens here? I value 1, and we'll use the same here. So you can see whatever you want to initialize here. So 1, You can use the 2 here, and you can use the 3, and you can go for this particular 4 here. And finally, okay, these many times we need to write. So this I'm trying to provide as a 1. This is also will become 1. Sorry, 1 0 will be available same here. This I want to modify as a 1 here, and 5. And here I want to provide 1 here, and here I want to provide the 2 and 6 value. And here 3, 7 value I'm providing, and here we need to provide the 4, and this all the values should be 1 row. This should be 2, and it will start with a 0. So now it's going to start with the 1, 2, 3. Okay, this will remove here. So here I'm going to write here 2. Okay, now initialize the values. So I'm going to initialize the 9, I'm going to initialize 10, and I'm going to initialize 11. Okay, so now you can see this is the way we need to initialize the values like this. So 0 0, I value 0, j value 0, and I value 0, j value 1, I value 0, j value 2 3. So I value 0, j value 3, and later I value 1 because indexes will start from 0 to 3. So I value indexes will start from 0 to 0 1 2, and j indexes will start from the 0 1 2 3. Why I am providing 3? Because size 4, it is size 3. Okay, size is 3 and size is 4. So whenever I am trying to write here, so it will start with a 0, it will repeat 4 times. Okay, and 0 1 2 3, and later we are updating the I value 1, and 0 1 2 3, and later we are updating this 2. So whenever I'm trying to write here, if I'm going to print here, we'll get the same output here. Now you can see same output, but instead of writing these many lines of code, the lines of code, what we did here, so simply we define the loop here. So now you can see this 2D. How many times we defined here? The 2D only one time. But here how many times we are defining it? How many times we are defining here? Around, you can calculate here. So around 12 times. Around 12 times we are defining this. So which one is the best way? One time defining is the best way, or 12 time defining is the best way? Okay. This is we need to think here. Okay. In the stack example also. In the stack example also is important here. So in the stack, this size we given as a 10. So this stack, this line also, it should write 10 times. Instead of writing the 10 times, what we are doing it, only one time we declare here, and internally we are increasing the value, and whatever the value we want to initialize, the value also we are updating here. Okay. So this is important, we need to understand here. Getting the way. This is important, we need to understand here. Okay. So any questions? So whatever you are asking the question, is it clear? So still you are having any doubt on that? So based on your value, so I'm going to modify here something like what you suggested, 2 comma 3, as you are providing 23, and this value I'm going to give as a 20. Now you can see, so it will again, I'm trying to run the same example. So 20 we are getting, and 23. Okay. So this is the way, using the specific indexes. Using the specific indexes, what we can do, we can modify the values here. Okay, so modify the values. This is very important example. The 2D dimension we are discussing it. If we don't have any questions, we will move on to the another important example called 3D example. Okay, so how this particular 3D is going to look like here. This is also one of the important example we are discussing here. So if anyone having any questions, so please let me know before going to start our 3D dimension example. Okay, so I will come up with one more class here to understand the 3D related example here. Where is the class? Okay, so this is the 3D array. I'm trying to generate the main method, and inside this particular main method, now what I will do, I'm going to write the same here. Again, I'm going to use the int here. So we can use the different data types here. So int, now I'm trying to provide the 3D, the reference variable I'm trying to use the 3D. But now observe how many brackets we are using. So how many brackets we are using? 3 brackets we are using here. Okay. So is equals to new int, basically again I need to provide the 3 brackets here. Okay. So I want to provide as a 3, 4 and 5. So see the sizes how I am giving. So this is not a matter, but you can give whatever the size you want to create it. Whatever the size you want to create, you can define here. That is not a matter basically. So just for understanding here, I am trying to explain how the diagram is going to look like. First we'll see the what is the 3 and what is the 4 and what is the 5. Okay. The 4 and 5 again we can understand the rows and column, but each blocks is going to define like this. 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So it will start with 0, 1, 2. And each block, how many we are defining? 1. Okay. 4 rows we are defining and 5 columns here. Get in the point. This is the way we can define the column. 0, second row and third row and fourth row. First value and second column, third column and fourth and fifth. Okay. So this is the diagram internally is going to look like here. Okay. This is we'll call it as a 3D, the 3D dimension array we are discussing here. Now here you can see. So we'll call it as a we'll call it as a I here, I, and we'll call it as a J, and here I'm going to call it as a K. Okay, here I'm going to call it as a I. It's contain these 3 0, 1, 2, and J will contain here this 0, 1, 2 and 3, and K will contain 0, 1, 2, 3 as well as 4 here. Okay, same way you can write all the values. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Here I am trying to write 0, 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So, and you can identify the columns, whatever we are defining like this here. Whatever we are trying to define. Okay. Now, how we can initialize the value? Now you can think here, if I'm not using the loop, how many times we need to write the code? How many times we need to repeat the code? This is important, we need to understand. So for this particular 2D, we define as a 12 times here. But now you can multiply this. You can multiply 3, 4, 5. So what is the result we are going to get? So the result times we need to repeat the code here. So we need to repeat the code. So instead of repeating this, now what we can do? So what I will do, I'm going to copy the whatever we declare here. Okay, whatever we defined here, I'm going to copy here. So now you can see I'm going to enable this particular comment section, and here instead of 2D I'm going to modify this 3D, and here one more loop we need basically. Into k is equals to 0. Okay, into k is equals to 0, and k less than the condition I want to provide as a 5. Okay, k plus plus. So 3, 4, 5. The conditions also important here. 3, 4, 5 I'm trying to provide. And finally, what I will do is I'm going to provide I comma j comma, and we should provide k also. Here we should provide the k value. And here what I will do, I'm going to come up with one more value. So initially I'm going to start with something like a 2. Initially I'm going to start with this particular 2, and value multiplication is equals to 2. Okay, this example we are not using the like addition operator. We are trying to use the division operator. So this is basically the 2 multiplication, the table, whatever the table we have in the mathematics, the table we are going to get basically. Okay, this is important, we need to understand here. Now we'll try to initialize the values into this particular table. So let's see how we can write the simple example. Okay, the value I'm making initially 0, all the condition will satisfy because all the values initially 0. I value 0, j value 0, and k value 0. So right side table, if you want to observe, the right side table will give you the information. Okay, condition also important. So just I will write the condition. I value 0 less than 3, okay, and j value 0 less than 4, and k value 0 less than 5. Now think about the k value. The k value, how many times it will repeat? This is the most repeatable statement, k. This k, it will try to repeat multiple times here compared to this particular I. I will repeat only 3 times. J will repeat around like so around 12 times something it's going to repeat, but k value will repeat multiple times. So here I'm going to write the k value repetition here. So because the k is the nested loop compared to the other 2 loops. Okay, k value 0, the condition will satisfy. What is the value we are having right now? I'm going to initialize the value. So the value 2. So where it will initialize, this is the first index location because I 0, j 0, k also 0. K also 0 basically. Okay, this is important, we need to understand here. Now the I value I initialize here 2, and I'm multiplying here. So once I multiplied here, k like what is the value I'm getting? 2. So now you can see k value second time it is repeating. K value second time it is repeating. Okay, the 2 value like it is now updated the 4 value. So you can see, okay, so this is the third time it is repeating here. Okay, now observe carefully the value it is updating right here. Now you can see the value, so it is updating as a 16. Getting the point. Now it is updating as a 16. Now again the value it is updating as a 32. Getting the point. Now the value is updating as a 32. So this is the first row is completed. Sorry, the first column, first row is completed. Once the row is completed, now you can see what happening internally. The k condition will false here. Once the k condition will false, now it's moving into the like nested loop of j only, not I. Getting the point? It will try to repeat only j here. So j is repeated. So j value, now again the k value will start with 0. So what is the value we are initializing here? 64. Here I am going to initialize the 64. So now compare how many the bigger value we are going to get here. How many? The bigger value we are going to get 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048. Okay. So now you can see 4096 and 8192, 16, 32, 65. So 1 lakh 31. Okay. 5 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crore, something. We are increasing the bigger value. Now you can see this is the out of range value we may get. So we need to wait here. So the range, now you can see the value is now minus. The value is now minus here. Okay. So what we can do, instead of doing this particular multiplication, what happening internally? So based on the result, it is trying to multiply here. Based on this particular result, it is trying to multiplying here. Okay. So this is the bigger value we are getting. So instead of this particular bigger value, now what we can do, we'll move on to the addition value. So addition will give you the some like a less value compared to this particular multiplication. So I'm trying to restart here. I'm trying to restart the same example here. So now you can see 2, 4, 6, 8, cutting the pen, 10, 12, okay, 14. So this is a way of writing this particular, the simple example here. So it is a some less value compared to this particular multiplication. Now you need to understand this particular how the initialization is working. Okay, so we'll try to focus more onto the getting the value from this particular example. What I will do, I'm going to copy the same for loops here. I'm going to copy the same for loops here, but I will modify the conditions here. So simply, I will write the sys out here. So print statement I'm using. Okay, so print statement I'm trying to write here. So I'm giving the space to print on this particular current value. Once it is completed, now what I will do, sys out here. And one more sys out I want to write here. So okay, let me keep this as it is. So this is the way of writing this example. Now finally, I am trying to stop the loop here and we'll try to see how the values are in getting here. Now you can see, so how many the diagram we created? 3 diagrams we created. First one, so second one, and third one we created. And now observe carefully, each one having how many rows here? First row, second row, and third and fourth. So how many columns we are having here? So 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 columns. Now compare with the size here, what we given. 3 is a 3 boxes we created here, and 4. This particular 4 basically 4 rows here. First row, second row, third and 4 rows. And 5 columns here. Now you can compare here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Getting the point? So this is all about the 3D dimension example. Okay, this is very important example we discuss here. The 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, as well as the 3D dimension example. Okay, so this is a way of writing this particular the dimensions example. Any questions here? Okay, so this is all about the simple example on this particular dimensions here. And once we completed this particular example, now what I will do, so tomorrow we are going to start the one other important concept to call overloading concept. Because in the last session we discussed about the what is the concept we discussed basically, like object creation, method creation, constructor creation we discussed here. And so tomorrow is one of the important concept to call polymorphism example we are going to discuss here, how this particular polymorphism is going to look like, and what are all the different ways we can write. Okay, so tomorrow also one of the important concepts we are going to discuss here. Don't miss. And I am uploading the day-to-day all the videos here. So just go through the videos and you try to practice it. Okay, any questions if you are having? So tomorrow we can discuss here. We'll continue tomorrow.